On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks will face the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. Why is no one picking the Mavericks? I think I have the answer on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
How about 10 Mavericks? NBA champions. Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know in the comment section, why do you think no one is picking the Mavericks? Curious what you think about that. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. And joining me back on the show, the great Dana Larson, Valley Sports Southwest. You can hear her on a lot of Rangers games right now. Not so much Mavs because they don't play the Mavs on local TV, which is a sad thing, I think, for everyone involved.
Real shame.
Including Mark Falwell. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with Falwell about how he doesn't get to call playoff games.
He's devastated.
He gets very animated about it. I'll put it that way. What you got for me, Dana Larson?
Oh, see, for all those reasons, I'm so happy to be back. I hope I'm not rusty. I've been literally doing like pre and post game shows at home to my family before and after the games. My poor daughters and my husband and my dog, they're like, enough already, but you can't get out of your system. You know, you get to do like Mark Falwell. You do 70 plus games. You're right there in the heart of it. Every home game, you're hanging on every moment of this. And then all of a sudden it just goes like that. So I am very excited to be here and have a lot to say about the Mavericks.
Well, I don't know if I'm the one to tell you this, but when I hire hosts for Locked On like NBA, I asked them, like, if you didn't do this as a job, would you keep doing it? Like, would you do it for free is kind of the question. You have to have that passion in order to do a job like this. And so, Dana, I'd just like to say you're qualified to be.
Oh, thank you so much. I am grateful. And I am here. I am here for whenever you need me. You guys just call me on the phone. I'll do a post-game show.
If you're doing post-game shows to your dog and to your kids at home, reluctantly, then you're in. All right, we're in, and the Mavs are in on the Western Conference Finals again. They're back. We had an episode with Isaac earlier talking about why the Mavericks are back, the reasons why the Mavericks got it back. And so now let's turn our attention to the Timberwolves. We'll talk about the different storylines. I want to go through all the different matchups and things like that. We'll talk about Anthony Edwards already kind of calling out Kyrie. I guess my matchup's going to be Kyrie. He said it on the post-game show after Game 7 of Minnesota versus the Nuggets. We'll talk about Karl-Anthony Towns versus PJ Washington. That's probably going to be a really big matchup that we'll focus on that could swing the series. We'll talk about the Mavs in Game 1s. We'll talk about that. I think that's something to focus on. For the audio listeners, got a big eye roll from Dana Larson.
I've got the stat ready for you on that one.
We'll talk about Luka, and we'll talk about his knee and Gobert and who guards him and all that. But we got to start here. No one is picking the Mavericks. They on ESPN this morning on the shows that I try not to watch because their basketball opinions infuriate me at times. They all picked the Timberwolves and one picked the Celtics to win the finals. Not even the Western Conference Finals. Like overlooking what's in front of you right now. You go across all the TNT guys, they picked the Timberwolves too, and all that. And Dana Larson, why is no one picking the Mavericks right now?
I don't know, but fine. You know what? That is just fine by me, right? You can all go over there in your corner and have that fun. And we are just fine here as the underdogs because if that's what it takes, the Mavericks have been proving people wrong all year long. Every single series, people have doubted them and they've just endlessly, reminded them that is a ridiculous way to go about it. So that is perfectly fine. You can have that. And I think the Mavericks will be very fine, sort of embracing the underdog role once again. Yes. I mean, the Timberwolves earned their higher seed in their standing in the Western Conference, and they earned home court. So those are two things that people are certainly going to look at quickly when you're just doing a quick assessment of a series. And I do also think, though, a lot of these people were, at least when I was watching TNT, they were struggling to make the pick. They didn't feel uber confident about Minnesota, although I think maybe Charles Barkley did. Anyway, Kenny seemed like he was struggling a little bit with it, right?
Chuck also hasn't been to Minnesota in 20 years. And
20
Anthony Edwards told him,
right.
bring your ass. That was the best.
There were some great quotes coming from
amazing.
Ant and Kat last night too, as well.
Speaking of which, they need to do the duo on the post game more often, because the Luka and Kyrie one was gold, and the Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns one was gold too. We need to do double.
Yes.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna text Mavs.
I'm
gonna text Mavs PR real quick.
Years, right?
And we also got the two Derek's thing of with Derek Lively and Derek Jones Jr. And when Tim Cato asked him what's the correct way to spell Derek, which was
that's great. I love that. And it's like big brother, little brother with those two.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what is so fun about the start of a series too. I love that there are all these storylines that you're diving into, and the one too that I cannot stop thinking about is how these two teams have come a long way since just 1 year ago. Because 1 year ago, you had one team throwing punches and the other team was throwing games. And neither were going anywhere in the postseason, right? And now look where we are. Look where we are. They are the last two teams standing in the Western Conference. And I think that's fascinating. And that is just surface level, right? And there's so much more to go as we finally get to, kind of look into all of the matchups.
As the kids would say, Dana Larson, that was a bar. That was a bar right there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I told you I've been sitting home dying, thinking of stuff.
She's been sitting there ready. She's ready. Come out of the bullpen. Literally, sometimes out of the bullpen.
True.
I think no one's picking the Mavericks because of this. In a star player's career, there's an arc. Every player gets an arc. We saw it with LeBron James, with Kevin Durant. You kind of saw it with Steph Curry in a different way. You see it with all these guys. They go through this arc where at the beginning, everyone's excited. Oh my gosh, LeBron coming into the NBA. How great is this guy going to look? What is he going to look like as a rookie? What's he capable of? Oh my gosh, he just went to a finals in 2007 with this Cavs team with nobody on it. What is he capable of all this? Everyone's very excited. Everything that they do is gold. You can't do anything wrong when you're the star on the rise at that point. Then you hit a point, and that's where Anthony Edwards is right now. Right there, he's in the point where everyone's excited about him. Everyone's ready for the star to rise. Everyone's ready for him to take this ascent, and he can do no wrong at this point. Luka Doncic is in the second part of this star right now, where he's been there a little while. We've seen him do great things. We've seen him do some awesome stuff. But all of a sudden, there's some things that start annoying you. With LeBron, it was okay, he's moving teams. He had the not one, not two, not three thing with the Miami Heat. He had the 2011. Do you remember what happened in 2011? Yeah, we remember that one well. He has these corny moments. He was all that. Kevin Durant goes to the Warriors, and all of a sudden, everyone turns on him. You have and now you have Luka Doncic, who talks to the refs a lot. He complains. You had the article that came out from The Ringer that we keep referencing. Does he affect winning? I mean, he's at the point now where he's being criticized, and he's at the point now where what he does and what he does great is not good enough. And so you have two different stars in different sections of their star arc right now. And the Timberwolves, and represented by Anthony Edwards, are at everyone's excited for him. Everyone loves to watch Anthony Edwards. He's at that point of his star, where Luka and Kyrie too are at this point where it's the criticism side of it. It's the what have you done for me lately? It's the what can you do now? And I think that to me is why there's this appeal to the Timberwolves and there's not the appeal to the Mavericks right now.
I mean, it's a good point that you make, and I think to circle back to how I started. That's fine. I think that's exactly where you keep seeing. Jason Kidd is this massive chip on his shoulder, right? In that duo press conference we saw with Luka and Kyrie, they were absolutely saying, yeah, everybody was calling us out. Fine. To your peril, that is absolutely fine by us because we've got it figured out. So that you're right. The storylines and the points in people's careers can be at different places, and that can be exciting for viewers or people on the outside. It doesn't always, lead to exactly what's going to happen in the series. I think you could argue that here's Luka, who the rightful MVP is the guy left standing, everything, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that you've got the people who are pro Luka who are saying, here, this is proving everything. And you said these two couldn't play together, and look how good Kyrie and Luka are. In fact, Kyrie has made Luka better. He's made Luka a better superstar because he's helping take the load off, and he's taking on some of that leadership sort of role for him. So, I think that you're right. That makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it necessarily, isn't something that the Mavericks can embrace and use, to their benefit as motivation.
They can use it as motivation, and that's maybe the only way that will affect this series,
Right.
that anybody who's picking this will affect it. And so coming up, let's talk about the things that will affect this series. Let's talk about Luka Doncic. Let's talk about where he is status-wise, his knee, who guards him, Luka versus Gobert. Should we be worried about Luka versus Gobert in a way that we haven't been in the past? We'll talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Yahoo Finance. Do you want a place where you can see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate all of your views from multiple accounts in one hub and expert analysis that you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested, and done what you can, but you need to take those investments to the next level, and you can do that with Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in just one place. Just go to yahoofinance.com and you can see what they have available for you. You can securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k, other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures that you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. They have a community of over 90 million users monthly. 90 million, that's so many. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. Again, it's yahoofinance.com. Also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to PrizePicks. It's the number one sports app with more than 3 million members. All these apps, getting all these users. You can go and place these games. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Last night, they did not have Mavs Timberwolves yet. They do have it now. Game 1, all you have to do, let's pick Luka Doncic, 28.5 points, more or less. I'm going to go more on Luka because I'm a homer. And Kyrie Irving, 20.5 points. Give me more on that. I'm feeling a Kyrie bounce back. 20.5 is very low, it feels like. Anthony Edwards, 27.5. Give me more on that one too. Not that much of a homer. So you can put that down. You just do 3 of those plays, put down $20. You can win 100. If I just let's add Karl Anthony Towns, 20.5. Give me less. PJ Washington taking him down. Put down $20. I can win 200 on that play. If I put down just $5, I can win 50 if all 4 of those hit. So check out PrizePicks, see what's available for you, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA for first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for checking out the show. We've got it's a daily show. Now it'll be bi-daily. What's the twice daily? What's the
double dose?
double daily. Jeopardy, your daily double. We'll be continuing to do episodes. I'll have a crossover with Ben Beacon of Locked On Timberwolves coming. There'll be a 2-part episode on that. I did the episode with Isaac. If you haven't watched the post game from Game 6, it may be the greatest episode. It may be the greatest non-Isaac episode that I've done on this, because it was me and Slightly and Reggie, and it was super fun in the arena and just having a good time. I also scared a reporter with my on Today show. he was not ready. He was not ready.
So
to
loud.
Oh, I screamed as loud as I could. All right, Dana, we're talking about Mavs versus Timberwolves. We've talked about why no one's picking the Mavericks. Now let's talk about the things that actually matter. The first thing, Luka Doncic, this knee injury. I have some concerns because of how we've seen him play. He gave them enough to win the Thunder series. I went over a couple times on this show. If Luka just had a normal shooting game, didn't shoot 30%, shot 40, 50, 60, they would win the game. It literally was the splits in that series. But in this one, I feel like they're going to need more from him. I feel like we're going to need a couple of special Luka games in this. And I'm concerned about the knee. We are recording this before practice today, so we're not going to hear any kind of update. I'll update it. I may update this episode if we hear something drastic, but his injury on his knee, the knee sprain, is one of those things that just is not necessarily going to get better. He does have a couple days off here, but I'm concerned about it. How concerned are you?
I mean, yes, I think you're concerned because at this stage you would like Luka to be, as close to 100%. No one's going to be even that. 90%, 85% would even be better, I'm sure, than what he is. But I do think everything's been trending in the right direction, which is a good sign. The last game against the Thunder, by far his most efficient shooting game, he looked more comfortable. He looked happier. He didn't look like he was dragging himself all around the whole time, right? So to me, I was taking from body language. We went from early in the playoffs, end of the Clippers series, to where he was saying everything hurts, everything hurts. Then it seemed like we were getting the other side of the coin, which is maybe the sarcastic, I feel great. So it's really hard to get a total read on how he is physically. Even hearing Kyrie Irving talk about how the Oklahoma City series was one of the toughest mentally, physically draining series he's ever played in his career was really eye-opening to me. And I'm sure, Luka would say something similar. So but the thing is, Luka's going to play. He's going to play. And clearly, and I think that with a couple more days off and with some of those matchups he's going to see against the Timberwolves, making his eyes just get really big, I think he's going to be excited to get to go. He's incredibly happy to have gotten the team to this point. I think a lot of the pain, starts to wane a little bit with the excitement of getting to this point in the playoffs. So I'm not going to worry too much about it.
Yeah. The one thing that does worry me is this part, is the matchup, is Luka versus Gobert. We saw in, 2022 how Luka can just neutralize him against the Jazz when he played against them. Now, this is a very different team than that Jazz team. This is not it's Gobert and it's Royce O'Neal and it's no other defenders that matter, like of consequence, basically. This is not that team. This team has defenders all over the place. And so I'm curious. There was a game in the regular season where afterwards the Mavs lose, but I still go, all right, I think this is a good matchup for the Mavericks. And this is before the trades. This is before, Kyrie only played one game against the Timberwolves in the regular season, and they won that game. But the Mavs have not played the Timberwolves with their current lineup, with PJ, with Gafford, with all that. These are the starting lineups. Luka, Exum, Derek Jones Jr., Grant Williams, Lively. Hardy, Exum, Derek Jones Jr., Grant Williams, and Lively. Luka, Kyrie, Derek Jones Jr., Josh Green, Dwight Powell was one. That's the game that they won, by the way. And then Tim Hardaway, Josh Green, Jaden Hardy, Grant Williams, Rashawn Holmes. Those are the starting lineups against the Timberwolves in the regular season. So none of those necessarily even
throw
matter.
it out the window.
But I think if Luka is going to neutralize Gobert in the way he has in the past, and Gobert has gotten better defending on the perimeter and things like that, but I think he'll need that extra burst off of that knee. And so that's an area where I'm concerned. Luka did not play Zubats off the floor as much as we thought that he would in the first round series. And so if that is any indication on how it will work against Gobert, that's kind of a concern, because that was a big thing that helped the Mavericks, especially in that win that they got in the regular season against the Timberwolves, where Gobert couldn't play, and so it was Karl-Anthony Towns and Naz Reid, and they just had to spread the floor, and it was just a 3-point shootout at that point. And you had to, like, at that point, the Mavs you just had to out execute them at that point.
I think that Luka will be the personalities, the history that these two have.
Yeah.
I think there is so much there that will be filling the tank, for Luka. Not to mention, you just talked about how different the team is. There's a lot more help around Luka as well, that they can approach it and attack it in different ways, which is going to be super helpful. I think after coming off of the series against Oklahoma City and literally carrying Lou Dort and his 220 pounds everywhere with him, he may actually have a little bit of a feel of freedom to play a little bit more against, like a Jaden McDaniels on the perimeter who's longer, who's taller, but a lot thinner and longer.
Push him. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's going to feel so different to Luka as he gets going in this, that at least I'm hopeful. And please, McDaniels is a very good defender.
Sure, yeah.
Certainly. So I'm not suggesting that's going to be easy. It's just, I think it's going to be a different type of matchup for Luka. And for some reason, I just feel like he's going to use that history that he has with Rudy and the supporting cast that's now really pulled together for this Mavs team. And, that it won't necessarily be the grind, hopefully on his knee that we've seen throughout this playoffs.
I think the other part about that is if Maxey is available or not too. We did see him shooting in practice last week, and so that's a good sign of him being back. He was kind of projected to maybe be back when they first diagnosed the injury at the beginning of this round if the Mavs had made it. And so I'm very hopeful. We'll see, again, we are recording this before practice, so if there's an update, we'll definitely add to the show. But that matters too, because then you can't spread 5 out and then all of a sudden Gobert gets neutralized even more. And that's what worked for them in 2022. And so that's something definitely something to watch between them. You talked about Jaden McDaniels guarding Luka. Other than that, you can put Anthony Edwards on Luka. Like you could try that for sure, but I don't know if you want to wear out Anthony Edwards doing that. Mike Conley, that's a no-go. Like you can't do that. You can't do Towns on Luka. Like, so any of the switches, Luka can hunt switches in this game. You can hunt a switch against Conley, against Towns, probably against Gobert. Like there are matchups for Luka to have there. And so I'm really looking at, it obviously starts with Luka, so I'm curious to see how his knee looks, how he looks against some of these matchups and things like that. But coming up, the other matchup that I'm really, really interested in is Kyrie versus Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards already said he's my matchup. He guarded him in the regular season in that game. So let's talk about that and what that means for this. And can the Mavericks actually win a game 1? Is it allowed? Talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds that you can use to get in on the action. Go to FanDuel right now and put down $5 and you can win You get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Go check it out. Mavs are a 4-point underdog in game 1. So maybe they don't think the Mavs can win a game 1, but the Celtics are a 10-point favorite in their game. So if that shows you how that's playing out. And the Mavs are still the underdog in the series on FanDuel too. It's minus 170 for the Timberwolves, plus 138 for the Mavericks. Kind of a coin flip at that point. I forgot about the Western Conference MVP too. I forgot about that award. Anthony Edwards minus 150 to win that. Luka plus 165. So there's a little difference between them. Towns is the next closest one, plus 1,400. Kyrie Irving plus 1,600, and then Gobert plus 5,000 on that. PJ Washington plus 12,000. If you put down $5 on PJ Washington to win Western Conference MVP, and he does, I don't know. I need whatever you got. I need that kind of foresight in my life to predict some things. So go check out FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, $5 bet gets you 150 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Dana, we're talking about Mavs Timberwolves, the Western Conference Finals. We back 2 out of 3 years, and the middle one doesn't matter. Let's talk about the matchups that matter for the Mavericks. We talked about Luka. We talked about his knee, him versus Gobert, Jaden McDaniels. Let's talk about Kyrie versus Anthony Edwards, because when asked about the matchup with the Mavericks, Anthony Edwards said, Kyrie's my matchup, and so we'll see what happens there. In the regular season, Kyrie only played 1 game against Timberwolves. He scored 35 points in the win on January 7th, and that was the Mavs' only win that they got, the only game that Kyrie played. Anthony Edwards guarded him a lot of the time.
That's right.
And I went back and I watched a bunch of Kyrie's shots, and Anthony Edwards died on like every screen that was set on him. Dwight Powell set a screen, and Anthony Edwards was just like, I'm just gonna stay here. He was chilling in that game. I'll just put it that way. It's going to be a different defender that we'll see in the Western Conference Finals. But your initial thoughts on Kyrie versus Anthony Edwards in that matchup?
Of the 35 that Kai had in that game, 11 came against Anthony Edwards, 5 of 7 shooting, to your point. So it was the most points he scored against any defender in that game. So yes, small sample size, and you are talking regular season intensity, right? And we know Anthony Edwards, who has now put it out there that this is the matchup he wants, knows he needs to bring it. He's got to bring the game to back up all of the talk. So the intensity will be at a different level. I'm certain about it. But Kyrie Irving is one of the best guards in the game and has been around and has been in conference finals and won a ring. Anthony Edwards has not ever been in a conference finals before in his career. So experience is certainly on Kyrie's side. And we know just his skill level is incredible. His ability to think the game is, next level. So I love his chance, in that particular matchup. But like you said, he too is probably going to hunt for the switches along the way too, and work his way into maybe something a little bit easier. And to your point, are they going to want Anthony Edwards to be wearing himself out? They're going to need him. He's a guy that in the 4 games they played this year, it was a total roller coaster ride. I mean, one game they held Anthony Edwards to single digits. The next he had 44. The next it was back to 9. He has been kind of all over the place in these matchups. So they can survive slow starts from Anthony Edwards. We saw that. Minnesota obviously came back in historic fashion in their game 7 in the second half when he wasn't at his best, and he is really maturing in to an incredible player. So looking forward to that. I love, the idea that Anthony Edwards is just someone who he talks so much, and he's willing to call out the big dogs. He'll call out LeBron, he'll call out Kyrie, and, Kyrie is I'm certain excited for the challenge.
But he'll call him out and be respectful about it too. Like even the exchange between him and Kevin Durant in the first round, like he went at him in the game, and then afterwards he was like, "That's my guy. That's who I grew up watching. Like that is who I revere in this game." And so I really appreciate that from Anthony Edwards. It's gonna be hard to hate him by the end of the series, but I feel like it will happen because it always does, right? Like you end up hating the other team's best player.
Well, and that's why they respect him too. Because, he backs it up. I mean, they obviously know this guy is on a trajectory to be, quite possibly, one of the greats, and they're aware of that too. And I think that's why there's a good deal of respect coming from both sides.
What did you take away from how Kyrie played in the Thunder series? Felt like they turned the faucet off from him a little bit. There were games when he had single-digit points. Coming out of that Clippers series, I thought, guaranteed he's going to get you 30 a game, or he's at least 25, 27 a game. And that just did not materialize at all. He had 20 a couple times, and it felt like, Kyrie's having a good scoring game when that's just a normal game for him. What did you take away from that, and how do you apply that to this Timberwolves series?
Well, and that is so interesting because even his comments about it, where he was acknowledging, like I talked about earlier, how tough the series felt to him, even emotionally. He used the word emotionally, and that he was willing to, if I remember, I don't know if he used the word compromise, but he was willing to really, as he was figuring out how best to go through it, make sure that he continued to set up his teammates well, put it all in on the defensive end. Which you really appreciate. So I guess I am a little fascinated. I'm intrigued to see how that version of Kyrie, if that was just a series, if that was just a matchup thing with Oklahoma City, or if we are kind of in the midst of some sort of a different looking Kyrie who is now deep into a season, playing a ton of games like he hasn't in quite a while. Really trying to play at a super intense level, and wanting to be at the top of his game, but not necessarily feeling like he has it. So I don't know exactly how that's going to look in this series. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jalen Williams posed a problem for him. He's got a lot of length. He's obviously very quick, and you're never going to tire him out because he's like 22 or whatever. Right. And so Kyrie, 10 years older, having to defend Jalen Williams on one side, and I thought he did an amazing job on defense, and he expelled a lot of energy there that it just wasn't there for him to do the same Kyrie things. I also still just feel like they don't call plays for Kyrie that often. It's give Kyrie the ball and let him cook, which is what he does really well. But you also, could you do some things? Could Kid and the coaching staff call a couple plays for him just to get maybe an easier shot for Kyrie? Because you feel like they haven't fully weaponized how good he is as a movement shooter, how good he is as a catch and shoot shooter. And so I'm curious if they try any kind of stuff like that, or if it's Anthony Edwards versus Kyrie, and then you run a couple of screens with Derrick Jones Jr. If Conley is on him, then maybe that helps them get a couple of easier looks for Kyrie. So, but this matchup for sure is definitely something I'm really watching. Luka and whoever, and Kyrie and whoever, like the two stars have to play well in this series, I think, for them to come out with a win. And
Agreed. Go ahead.
The last thing I want to get to is game ones. The Mavs, Jason Kidd has not won a game one with the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs yet. Does that number concern you? Do you think that's a fluke number? It's what? It's 0-4 now. But he is also he is also 4-0 in
I was
closeouts
just about to say. So the
you
point
win the ones that
being,
matter.
Win the ones that matter, right? At the end of series, close them out. Kyrie and Jason Kidd, perfect in closeout games, but 1-11 in your last 12 game ones. That is wild.
Kidd,
I mean, obviously,
as a coach in general?
No, the Mavericks. 1-11 in their last
just the
12
jersey at
game
this point.
ones. Right. So it obviously, goes back even further. It's really strange. And I don't know if it's this week, and every time they've lost the game one afterwards, it's like that you hear the words, we didn't come in with the right intensity, the right energy level. And you're always just thinking, how can that be? It's almost like they want to slide in, get a feel for what's coming at them instead of, bringing it to the other team and forcing their game plan on the opponent. So I don't know what to expect. Is it going to be a repeat of that? Have they learned their lesson? This is where you get to the point where you don't want to be digging out of holes in the West Finals. You've been able to survive it, but you start playing with fire. And it does feel like, if you can go in and set a tone and win one on the road in game one, it's hard. Nobody's saying it isn't. But yeah, it's a very strange trend that you don't love.
And that's what happened to the Nuggets. The Nuggets got down to an 0-2 hole in the second game. They looked awful. I mean, it looked like they were done at that point. And if you dig yourself into a hole, the Nuggets just didn't have enough time. If that game 7 was maybe 10 more minutes, maybe the Nuggets win that one, but they just didn't have enough time to come away with a win. They had the crazy game 6 where the Timberwolves won by like almost 50.
Just
so
a
they had
no-show. Yeah.
multiple games where they were like that. And so if you dig yourself a hole, it's just you don't give yourself enough time to dig out of it because this Timberwolves team keeps coming. This defense is very, very good. Anthony Edwards and them, their offense has been better. I'm really interested to hear Ben Beacon's opinion on how the offense for the Timberwolves has been better in the playoffs than in the regular season. And so we'll talk about that, but keep coming back to Locked On Mavs. We have a lot of stuff the rest of the week. Dana, go listen to her on the Bally Sports, or it's Bally Sports for Rangers, right? I don't know what the Rangers are on anymore.
Yeah. We're Bally Sports Southwest for the Rangers for sure, and just stay tuned. We're hoping to maybe have some Mavericks post game shows too along the way. Maybe a little teaser. Yeah.
There you go. Go check that out, guys. Thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.